Hey everyone, it's TB Shores. It is March the 10th, 2021. It's 12:38 a.m. We're going to pick back up where we left off in Psalm 55. Before we get into the scripture, I just want to mention again, because it's significant to tie this all together, the stick dream that I had back in December of 2014. Remember that how I even ended up in Psalm 55 is because the same night that I had the dream about the stick, I woke up later and I clearly heard spoken Psalm 55. So, I've read this many times, but the Lord has been showing me some things within this lately that I have never seen before. It ties directly in to the stick and where we are and what's going on. So having said that, we're just going to get into it, okay? First I'm going to read this scripture that we covered last time, talking about the change that came upon someone who had been in fellowship with those of the house of God, had been a friend, and had communed with them and took counsel with them, okay? So this is what the scripture says. For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me that did magnify himself against me. Then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide, and mine acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together, and walked into the house of God in company. So you can see there was a change took place. They had been in fellowship together, had been friends, and something changed, and it made them enemies. This next verse, when I get into explaining it, we've already touched on a few things. This is about the falling away. For those who are just joining, maybe. This is showing us the change that will come with that falling away, because this is about those who had been in fellowship, but now they have become an enemy. Now, after reading that and we go into the next verse, we see here that it says, let death siege upon them, and let them go down quick into hell. Now that is some strong language. That is some harsh things to say. But you got to understand that whatever change has took place, it has been severe, okay? Because they're enemies now. And I'm hoping the Lord's going to guide me to some scriptures that will help me to expound on that later. I did have some, but I'm trying to keep this from being too long, and we're going to stick with the scripture we already had. Of course, it is the Psalm 55 that ties into the dream of the stick, so I'm trying to keep everything focused on that. But when we look at this, where it says, let death siege upon them, and let them go down quick into hell, we know something drastic has occurred. Then it says, boy, I'm having all kind of troubles. Me and this computer are just not getting along today. Okay, here we go. All right, back to verse 15. Here, right after this, we see it says, for wickedness is in their dwellings and among them. Okay, now we talked about before how that we are the temple of God, and that He dwells in His temple. Okay, and how in 2 Thessalonians we saw how the son of perdition wanted to exalt himself and set himself up to be as God in the temple of God. So when you start understanding that it's about Satan trying to set himself up in this, our body, the temple of God, you've got to look at it from that perspective to see this, because one thing the Lord has taught me is look through spiritual eyes, look through spiritual eyes. It changes a whole lot of things when we do that. That makes things more clear to us. Now, we talked about the dwelling place being within us, okay? So that's what this is talking about, being within us. But what absolutely blew my mind was, as I was looking this, the Lord was guiding me because I was trying to understand. I was seeking Him to understand, what are you trying to show me? What is here that I've not seen before? And He led me. You got to keep in mind, earlier I had looked up the word wickedness in this chapter, and it meant, I'll just show you. This wickedness means, well, if I can get it pulled up here, it means things like calamity and destruction, okay? Right here you see it, calamity and destruction. Okay, so when I got to this other wickedness down here a few verses later, I'm like, okay, for wickedness is in their dwellings. Calamity and destruction is in their dwellings. But something was just gnawing at me. There had to be more to it. And the Lord led me to go ahead and click on it because it had a different number to it, okay? It's got a different Strong's number meaning behind it. And what I saw blew my mind. You see this right here? Ra.
Strong's H7451, Ra, Ra, and second entry, Ra, Ra,
Okay.
and third entry, Ra'ah, Ra'ah.
So the significance with that is the Lord had me do videos back in 2015, and I think I pulled some of them up. Let me see. That's one of them. Right here you see I've got something in the video talking about the eye of Ra, okay, and it's connected to the pineal gland, which is in the dwelling, okay? Are you starting to see what I'm talking about? It just blew my mind when the Lord showed me this, because this is telling us that Ra, okay, Ra, and there's a lot of things connected with this name: evil, wickedness, mischief, hurt, trouble, affliction, adversity, harm, grievous, sad. But the Lord was leading me to understand this is about Ra, okay? And then we can read this. Wait a minute, I want to show you this right quick. Just so you understand the significance of Ra. Some of you may understand who Ra is, and some of you may not. And you got to remember, I did studies on all this years ago, but it all ties into CERN and studies I did back during that time. It's May and June of 2015, if you want to go look those up. But I did a lot of studies on things back then that had to do with CERN and the Egyptian gods, and how it ties into a lot of things connected to the World Trade Center, and Satan, how he mimics God in this world in so many ways. But Ra, here, let me tell you what Ra is. It says the ancient Egyptians reverend Ra as the God who created everything. So just based on that statement alone, we know that Ra is Satan's version of God, okay? Because we know that the one true living God is the one who created everything. But this is Satan trying to be like God again, okay? That's another example of him trying to be like God when he was here as Ra. Now, a lot of people think that these Egyptian gods, ancient Egyptian gods, were myths. They were not myths. They were the fallen. They were Satan and the fallen trying to set themselves up to be worshipped as God on this earth. Okay, and that's what is going on. It's about them coming back and trying to do this all over again. Okay, and so we see from this scripture, now that we know who Ra is, Ra was revered as the God who created everything. So this was Satan trying to set himself up as God even then, okay? And so then we can go back and we can read this scripture and understand that it's saying, let death siege upon them and let them go down quick into hell. For Ra, which is Satan, is in their dwelling, which is within them. Okay, the temple of God. Okay, when the Lord showed me this, I was blown away. But we've got some other things in this scripture, and I'm not even broke all of it down. It's just certain things the Lord has led me to that I have broken down that we're covering right now. I just let Him guide. So we'll see where we're going when we get there. But the next thing we're going to look at, let's see, I'm trying to, right here, will take us to verse 10, and it will show us, because I was saying, I was just talking to the Lord about this and what He was showing me. And I had also talked to a friend of mine making some statement, I don't even remember exactly what I said, that somehow I wish that I could be shown the DNA and the other things that is all connected to this in the Word. It's got to be there somewhere, right? Okay, so we're fixing to see some of that, and the Lord showed it to me. We're going to see some in some more verses in this scripture, and even it ties into some scripture in Daniel, and I'm hoping the Lord will guide me to some more, because this is just absolutely amazing. So I hope you're as excited about this as I am, because that scripture says it right out in the open, okay? Because we know what we're seeing here is Ra, okay? And Ra was an ancient Egyptian god that the Egyptians revered as the God who created everything. So that was Satan setting himself up to be worshipped as God. Then we're seeing, Ra right here in the scripture. For Ra is in their dwelling. Let death siege upon them, and let them go quick into hell, for wickedness. Ra is in their dwelling. And I'm going to cut this off here, and we'll pick up in this when we get back. I love y'all. Bye-bye.